Jaleel,
What's happening, Nick?
welcome to the Viall Files.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's great to be with you. I'm very, very, very excited to chat with you. Like I said, when you walked in, I absolutely grew up watching you. It was a huge, like you were like one of my role models as a kid. And it was, so it's a
Role model.
yeah, for sure. Stefan, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I hope not wardrobe role model.
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have pulled this. That's for sure.
I grew up watching Family Matters, TGI Fridays. Like it was definitely, I was a kid during that generation. And then I was a huge fan. And so like, there's definitely like, this is a pretty cool moment for me. So
Thank you.
I'm very excited to have you.
Thank you.
Do you have your new book out, obviously, that you're releasing?
Yeah, man.
It's a very fascinating book. I mean, you really talk a lot about a very.
Wait, you read it?
I read parts of it.
Don't lie to me.
I had my-
You read parts of it,
I
and
read-
then
You're on film.
I have. We have the whole book here, right here.
Holy smokes! All right.
Zach on my team read your whole book in 2 nights.
You read it in 2 nights.
I was like, hey, I got a daughter.
Is this Zach or is
No, that's
Zach's
Justin.
on the other
Zach,
side?
you'll meet Zach.
All right, we gotta get Zach in here.
But I was like, hey, I got a lot of shows to do. I'm gonna page through it, read some chapters. I asked how much could he read so I could prepare for the interview.
Yeah.
Zach went and started reading it, and he like texted me. He's like, this is a great book, and he's like finished half the book in night 1, finished the rest in 2 nights. He burned right through it.
to let everyone know,
Cover to
growing
cover.
up Urkel is
It's
an
a
easy
great read. It's a great, easy read. It's full of fascinating stories, and he's sending me all these notes, and I'm like, holy shit, this is very fascinating.
This is so fun.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that compliments in another sector of media or art or expression, they land differently over time. I've been in the business for 40 years. So to have someone say that they've enjoyed a book that I wrote, and I know how many late nights that I stayed up trying to meet the deadlines of turning in these chapters. It's really satisfying.
Were you nervous writing this book?
Yeah, no. When I printed out the first draft, I just kind of had a little meltdown. I was like, this is shit.
Why did you think that?
Come on. I mean, we've all written college papers and stuff like that or whatever, right? And you go back and you read them, and you're like, what the heck? It's just like any first draft, and then you get through the editing process, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, I can reorder this, I can cut that, and it starts to come together. And I had a very supportive editor at Simon & Schuster, Yadon, and I don't know, it was a real therapeutic experience, to be quite honest.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you do obviously very much talk about your entire career, your life growing up. The question you said it was therapeutic, but I was curious, were you self-conscious reading it back, wondering like how much are people going to be interested in this? Like just knowing that it was, the book was about you and deciding what was something that you should share or not. But I guess what part also was therapeutic? The
part that was therapeutic was going back and revisiting certain relationships.
Okay.
Like I called up Kelly Williams. She's always Kelly to me. She's not Laura, but to you guys, she's Laura. Right. So, calling up Kelly and, discussing what our relationship was and things that she would be comfortable with me sharing, and just, I don't know. There's 2 sides to every story.
Yeah.
And so I worry when somebody tells me a side of the story where they did nothing wrong at all. Right? Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that the book was self-reflective enough where it was like, I think I was a little shit right here in this space. I think I might have been a little shit right here, or here's where I was dorky. I talk about my first date ever. I couldn't even drive. My co-star drove me on my first date. Darius McCrary and I, who played Eddie Winslow, are only 6 months apart in age. And that's something I really kind of wanted the whole world to finally put together. Like, okay.
I had that in the notes, and I actually asked Zach, I was late, how close in age were they? Because you met, and I was surprised, because on the show, he plays someone much older than you.
On the show, he's a giant. Darius, so from the day I ever met Darius was, 6'1", 220 pounds. And I was 5 and this much soaking wet. But Darius is born in May, and I'm born in November in the same year. And, so Darius was always doing everything way earlier than me. I remember him driving to the set at 14 years old with his mom in the passenger seat. No license, no nothing, just pulling into his parking spot.
Are you serious?
Yeah. The 90s are different, dog.
They definitely were different.
In the 80s, you didn't have to buckle up your kids, man. You didn't get arrested for that.
You didn't have car seats.
You didn't have car seats. They just kind of traveled in the car.
And were people was like, oh, he's famous, it's fine? Or like,
I mean, like I said, he looked like a man. So as long as you're not doing anything illegal, you're not gonna get pulled over.
I guess so, yeah.
It was different back then. It was different.
Yeah.
So, I loved it. I enjoyed writing about Darius. Darius does some lunatic things sometimes in his own private life, but he'll still always be a brother to me. And just talking about the three of our childhoods together, we were the triumvirate. We were all pretty much the same age, same grade, same prom year, same graduating year, all that kind of stuff. So we lived a lot of things together.
Were you were you going to school while filming?
Yeah, so I talk about that in the book too, where I went to public school while I was filming the show. And my mother was adamant that I go to public school.
So were you the most popular kid in school?
Depends on which school we're talking about.
Okay.
I went to a school where I was the only black kid in the entire school.
Oh, wow.
That was an interesting dynamic. And then I left that school and I went to a school that was almost kind of like the school from Lean on Me, with Joe Clark as the principal. And then,
Great movie.
And then in that school, it wasn't such a good thing to be so popular.
Oh, no.
Especially with my image.
Yeah.
So, but I talk about what it was to go to school. Like pretty much my schedule of going to school was every 2 to 3 weeks, I went to school for a complete week. So I enjoyed popping into my classes and being caught up. Yeah. And the kids are like, we haven't seen you for 2 weeks and you're taking tests with us and answering questions. And it was kind of like a little magic trick I actually enjoyed, to be quite honest.
So how long did the process of writing Growing Up Urkel take? Because Nick wrote a book. It took him years.
Yeah. Okay, this one you're not going to believe. We got rushed. Wrote it in a year.
Anxiety.
Yeah. And it really was it was 6 months.
Wow.
Because once you get into production, this is not like turning in a paper to, a college professor. There are delivery items and there's a whole delivery schedule. And so in fairness, I definitely had 2 ghostwriters that I was charged with working with. Let me just educate people out there. If you've never published a book, nobody's paying you to write a book without somebody right beside you who has already delivered a book. It's almost like hiring a contractor to build a home. Nobody's going to hire a contractor who's never built a completed home before. So yeah, I had the option. I could have phoned it in like a lot of celebrities do. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to say names, but I was really more inspired by the people like Jeanette McCurdy's, who I really just connected with her book. I thought it was so authentic. From a child acting perspective, I was like, "Oh, she's telling." She's the
one.
It's my mom dead.
I Wish My Mom Was Dead. Or
yeah,
it's
dead,
called.
Yeah.
She beats
I heard
me.
That was amazing.
She beats me on the title. I don't. I tried.
Well, thank God you don't.
I mean,
I'm like, but I was like, I can't throw mom under the bus like that. My mom wouldn't like that. But it was a great book. It inspired me, and I really took on the challenge of writing my own book. And so, you're going to get a lot of people that have opinions about, well, this should be taken out, this can be taken out, this can be reworded this way. And in this day and age, I was actually blessed to have 2 females that worked alongside me to do that. Because once something becomes literary, there's no taking out of context. It's like, it's printed right here, right?
Wow, yeah.
So there's a different level of nerves, you know what I'm saying?
For sure. When you auditioned for Family Matters, how did that character develop? Did you always know you were playing a guy who was a nerd? Like, how did you feel about that? Did you really feel like you had to get into that character, or did you kind of feel like, maybe I'm a nerdy kid, or like, who did you relate more, I guess,
ultimately,
when you started?
Man, I was just a 12-year-old kid who wanted to get a Sega Genesis. That's it.
Did you ever get one?
Yes.
Oh,
it was. I was. So my dad came up with so in this year, Sega Genesis came out in August of 1989. I auditioned for Family Matters in September of 1989. I wasn't allowed to get things of that size unless it was for my birthday, Christmas, or I'd gotten a report card. So my dad had come up with this ingenious idea that anytime I went on an audition, if I booked a job, I could get one of anything I want. And think about that. It's actually brilliant. It's like, what do you mean? But you're telling a 12-year-old you can get one of anything you want. And if I'm going to Toys R Us, Circuit City, these are the stores that mattered back then, right? Anything that I wanted was going to cost at the most $200 to $300. And that's if I'm like, yo, can you get that from the top shelf way up there, right? And I wanted a Sega Genesis. And so I hated going on auditions at this point in my life. I wasn't booking a lot of jobs. The auditions would come like once, maybe every month or 2. And I generally had to miss basketball practice to go on the audition. And even when I'd get there, I always still had a sense for the business because I'd been acting since I was 3. I would not even feel right for the roles. But I saw the description of this character, and it was really just a black kid doing a terrible Ed Grimley and Pee Wee Herman to try to get a Sega Genesis.
That's incredible. Did you, when, I'm curious, because Steve Urkel was the star of the show, right?
I mean, in your opinion?
You don't think so?
Come on.
I mean, I talk about that.
Did you think it was?
No, it was just, you know, it was
no
just,
offense.
look, it was just, you know, technically speaking, I always like acknowledging. I was like, hey man, I wasn't the star of the show. And behind the scenes, there were a lot of ways in which I was always reminded, you're not the star of the show. When I went out in public, okay, everything changed. And I accepted that role model responsibility. I wasn't, you know, Charles Barkley about it. I felt like I'm a role model. You know, I accepted that. But the show was always, you know, it was intended to be geared around Harriet and Carl.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I even remember as a kid when the show came out. I mean, I honestly think I maybe watched the pilot. Like you know, I was a big fan.
I watched the show before I was on the show, and I didn't like the show.
Oh, that's right. You weren't. That's right. You weren't even.
You were only supposed to be on for one episode.
Yeah,
correct?
like the show. I came on episode 12.
Ah, that's right.
So I can remember it consciously as a kid
yes.
watching the show, because first of all, a black show that would come on TV back then was a big deal, especially for black folks. We're like, oh, we got to see what they're doing. And I remember there was a scene with
Family Matters was like the first, like, other than the Cosby Show. I grew up watching the Cosby Show, and
so
that
of course
went away.
we get called a Cosby knockoff and whatever. They got called a Cosby. I wasn't there yet. They got called a Cosby knockoff. So
is that true? Were you only supposed to be on one episode?
Yeah, only
and then
one episode.
The audience just loved you
And
so
you just
much.
nailed it.
We had a frat that showed up to the live taping that week, and they really identified with a nerd character. And so they would chant my character's names in all the scenes that I wasn't in. Like, we want the nerd, we want the nerd.
Oh,
And so I remember walking to the parking structure at Sony Studios right here, which was then Lorimar Studios, at the end of that taping. And I was walking with the frat because I parked where the audience parked because I was only a guest. And they're like, man, you're funny, man. They're giving me high fives and everything. And little do I know, a deal is being made for me to return on Monday.
Wow.
How did your co-stars react to that?
Well, like I said, that was rough in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's been highlighted enough in over the years. I like to, in the book, show how we ultimately did grow together.
Sure.
And there's enough pictures even in the book to support that. We're the only black show that's ever filmed in Europe. We did a 2-part episode in Paris. That was a magical time.
Wow.
We did episodes in at Disney World when that was the thing where every show had to go to Disney World, right? And you know, we really grew as a family. You don't do 215 episodes, man, if everybody's just fighting and not getting along. We had incredible laughs on that show. It's just the reality of it is, look, it was the 90s, and the 90s are our 60s. So, you know, life has changed, values have changed, and sometimes people's memories get a little fuzzy and foggy when they look back on things.
Family Matters still is the longest running sitcom with a predominantly black cast.
Second.
What's the
the
first?
Jeffersons. You're too young to remember the Jeffersons.
Yeah,
That's
no,
like
I
the
don't know.
Oh my gosh, she's like, oh my God, what is that?
I don't know the Jeffersons.
You just made me feel so old.
Anyway,
I know the
You don't, dog.
I know the Jeffersons.
You got a hot wife that's young enough not to even remember
yeah.
the Jeffersons, dog.
Yeah, y'all are old.
Literally.
But did you realize how important that was? You did.
No, I did. I did. They did something to us that kind of registered to me. I saw a lot when I was a young kid. So my brain kind of clicked on an adult level, but I didn't understand human nature yet, if that makes any sense. Right? So it's like, that's interesting. Why is that? And you're a kid, so you're not processing it on an adult level. But I remember they hung a banner after our first 100 episodes. And they said, congratulations on your first 100 episodes. And that banner hung over our audience bleachers for the next 100 episodes. But I remember when they hung it after the first 100, I got a little nervous because I was probably around 15 years old. And I was like, oh shit, like they expect us to do another 100 of these? And I knew where I was in my development, and I knew I was struggling with the voice at times and just, you know, puberty in my brain. And I'm like, and that first always stood out. I'm like, that's not a typo. Like, they know more about the business of where we're going than we do, obviously. And over the years, they have made clear sense.
Yeah.
They did.
You talked about you mentioned you went on your first date with Darius, and
Yeah.
you talked about how cool he was, and
Oh man, he was so cool.
you kind of identified as like someone who wasn't in the book.
Oh yeah, no, I was a different version of a nerd.
So reading that part of the book, I was kind of fascinated, and like I said, and I appreciate you allowing me to be a little bit of a fan here. But
Man, no, go in, dog. I'm on your couch, dog. Do your thing. Come on.
but like, not to sound dorky, but like when Stefan
Yeah.
came out on the show, I was like, I just thought that was the coolest fucking thing as a kid.
That's so funny.
And I don't know what it was. I don't know. Maybe everyone loves a glow up or something. I was an athletic kid, but like something about that when every time you transformed into Stefan, I was just like, this is the coolest fucking kid in the world. But I was also more like, oh, I think it's the first time I really understood like acting in a sense.
Yeah.
Because like, as a kid, you're just like, oh, this is a nerd. The nerd comes in, and then all of a sudden you take a potion, and you become this cool guy. You can play basketball.
It was a real potion.
But I also, when reading that book,
Boss sauce was on the shelf.
Reading that book, I was surprised to hear that because, like, I saw you play Stefan, and you were this cool cat with all this charisma, and then you read that part about your first date, and you almost describe yourself more Urkel-like. And I'm just curious, is like, who was more the kid growing up? Were you more Stefan, or were you more Steve?
I was definitely, so first of all, the trick of Stefan, anyway, just as the acting trick, was Stefan was just, he over-exaggerated a lot of his movements, and he over-complimented everybody. So he would tell Carl he lost weight when he hadn't. He would tell Harriet she looked younger than Laura. He would just do that. So there were just certain tricks to the way he moved, the way he walked, the way he talked. On the personal front, my mannerisms were always far closer to Stefan.
Okay.
Absolutely. But as far as figuring out girls was concerned, I was an only child and a complete dunce.
Okay.
My mom was somewhat of a control freak, and she'll admit it now. And so my curfew followed my shoe size and my grade. It was 10th grade size 10, be in by 10 o'clock, 11th grade size
That's
11.
That's a good way to do it.
No, she didn't consciously do that. I put this math together in the afterlife. I was like,
what happens when you wear size 13?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So when I got to be a 12 and a half, it was like, trust me, it was a lot of turmoil. There was still a lot of turmoil in my house in my senior year, though. But because of that, interacting with girls and understanding what teenage girls were being drawn to, I was a little off. I was a little off. I had a very movie romance idea of dating. So everything I saw in the movies is what I thought you were supposed to do.
Sure. That makes
I was
sense.
supposed to take her out to a nice restaurant. I was supposed to take her.
Who finally told you that, like, it's not that deep?
Oh, no, that's Darius slowly eroding.
Okay.
I don't know what.
He's like, reel that shit in.
Introducing the bad boy to this scenario.
Yeah.
How did the character Stefan even come to be? Were you like, hey guys, I can play,
No.
I'm really good at basketball, I'm pretty cool.
No.
Like, who came up with that?
Again, you have to be around people in our business who see more in you than you see in yourself.
Okay.
And until that happens, you're only going to grow so much. So my showrunner, David Duclan, who I haven't seen or heard from in years, and that's okay because he's moved to Chicago. He's not in the business anymore. But David was my captain and my hero, and he just always saw more in me as a performer than I ever saw in myself. For me, I knew how to get the laugh as being the guy in the suspenders. That was as easy to get as a prolific NBA scorer. I mean, I could just make a face. I could do, and I thought, I'm going to get a laugh off that. I'm going to get a laugh off that. And it's like a kid, once a kid gets a room rolling, they start milking it. It was like, oh, this kid, he's got everybody going, right? But Stefan was David's creation. And when I read the script at table reading, and I'll never forget when we walked out of table reading, he wanted my feedback. And I was like, Dave, I think he's boring. And he's like, no, Jaleel, trust me. Like, people need to see this side of you. And so that just shows you how, even though I was going to public school, I was turning in my work. That just shows you how disconnected I was. And we didn't have all this social media. So you don't know how you're viewed around the world. You don't know how people are seeing you in other parts of the country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought he was boring at first. And, David assured me that people wouldn't see it that way. And listen, I hit that door for that live studio audience in that white suit. And to this day, that's one of the most thunderous screams, stomping of the feet, loudest bleachers I've ever heard in my life. It was so loud, I really wanted to break character and be like, "Are you serious?" And
I mean, I remember
but
that,
I
yeah.
did, but I didn't because I took real pride in not breaking character. Breaking character basically means like if you really got a good scene going, the laughs are just going. Sometimes as actors, we know we could get you to break character. Like, oh, I'm about to get him to laugh. You would see Seinfeld
Sure.
bloopers.
Yeah.
We have those same kind of bloopers too. And but I didn't like anybody getting me to break character. Like I wanted to always make sure we got the best take in the can.
Did you notice fans in public look at you or treat you differently once Stefan came onto the scene?
Black girls. Black girls specifically. Very much so. Like, black women in general don't even really refer to me as Steve. They almost kind of like just leapfrog. My whole legacy for black women tends to be Stefan.
Okay. Wow. Fascinating. I know you talk in your book a lot about the sensitivity around people referring you to as Steve or trying to get you to do the voice or the line. As someone, I don't know how much you know about me, a long time ago, I was The Bachelor. And so
I know a little bit about you. I know that much.
So, even to this day, it's been like almost a decade, but like someone asked me to hold a rose.
Oh,
I
gosh.
fucking cringe, So like I very much relate to that. How have you been able to find that balance? Because like I know that like when I first, got done with The Bachelor, I think especially on reality TV, you really want to not just be pigeonholed into that, at the same time, it's like this recognition of like, well, this is how people in the public know me,
fair enough.
And I've basically spent a decade trying to find that balance of like, how do I give my audience the things they're looking for while simultaneously try to show them other aspects of what I can do or my personality, or how have you balanced that?
I wrote the book to answer people's questions. I've had decades of questions that have been asked to me. And once I started just in literary form answering those questions, then it started to become a manuscript. And that really was essentially my proposal for Simon & Schuster. So grab that book right there and read the opening part right there to the left. And what does that question say?
I'm dyslexic, so bear with me. Does it bother you when people still call you Urkel? Yeah, this is a question I get all the time. Well, you read it. It's your words.
This is your show. I'm on the Nick Viall show. What are you talking about? I'm the guest.
This is a question I get all the time, and it's an interesting one because the question lands differently from different people. That makes sense. Over the years, I've trained myself to hear their tone when saying the name or asking the question. Okay, I see where this is going.
And thank you for playing along.
Yeah.
But it was just like I wanted people to understand how much the book is kind of about you and my interaction with you over the years and how self-aware I was about certain moments and things that were going on in my life. But listen, when you're a public figure, period, I've learned that anybody can come up to someone and say something stupid to them. I remember I was hanging out with Donovan McNabb, the quarterback from the Philadelphia Eagles, one time, and he had a dude in a comedy store that just went on and on and on about Chunky Soup. I mean, just, if you remember those Chunky Soup commercials he used to do, right? It was just like, this dude did a solid 10 minutes on Donovan and his mama and Chunky Soup. And it was kind of funny too. And I could see Donovan's face and I'm seeing him like, damn, I'm normally the dude in the comedy store that would have to withstand this. Like, he went to Chunky Soup route. I didn't see that coming today, right? And it's just like, not everybody is going to have the best social graces. And I think that's common for anyone on the planet. So when you're The Bachelor, or I'm the guy that played Steve and Stefan, they want the rose out of you. They want, did I do that out of me? That pushes things too far. If you're having a romantic meal with your wife or something like that, and some guy comes up and he's like, hey, stand with my wife and pretend to give her a rose. It's like suddenly it turns performative. Like, you stick a quarter in my ass. I'm like, and there's
what you just described has happened so many times.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know.
It's just like, no.
And I what I've just trained myself to do is there are people that they just push it. And you can see them pushing it.
There's a sense of like almost you owe this to me.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I've watched you.
Exactly.
I'm a fan.
Exactly. And those are just people those are people I'm telling you they probably in general have very poor social graces. So I try to pause and just kind of like give it a second before I give a full reaction, especially if I get, like I said, somebody that even uses the character name. The good thing is millennials, for the most part, they call me Jaleel because they're Google generation. So if they like you for anything, they look you up and then they just instinctively know you more from what they've seen of you online.
Yeah.
So I hate to show people's age, but the only people really still asking me to say, did I do that, are Gen X and boomers. So I try to have a little bit
Which
more.
Which is harder to be like rude to because it's like somebody's grandma. You know?
Exactly.
Right,
So
yeah.
that's what I said. So
sometimes it is the grandmas who kind of are off-putting
Exactly.
in public.
They can be pushy. They can be pushy.
They're very pushy. They're like, I'm
they were
old.
real
You're
pushy
oldest
with you
to me.
too.
Yeah.
They want to touch your hair. They want to put their hands on you. They want to get physical with you.
There's a bit objectifying. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
How many times does a woman come up and just absolutely disrespect your presence while he's standing there?
It happens more times. It's a lot of like, take this photo.
I mean, when we first started dating, when we weren't as public, I mean, now she's my wife and it happens a lot less now, but at first, oh my God, yeah. They would literally just hand Natalie the phone, be like, can you take this picture? It's just like, and we were very like,
would you take it?
I would.
Well, then she did it.
You got the prize. Come on, give me a good one.
I would.
She did it first, but then I would stop. I wouldn't let them ask her anymore.
That means he's in love with you.
Yeah.
Because I do the same thing. I'm like, no, that's my wife. That's my daughter. We can find somebody else around here.
Well, yeah, it's disrespectful. Now it's just like if you know me, you should know her.
I swear, I wish I could teach people though the graces of approaching somebody famous. I mean, the best approach I ever had was actually it was an 11-year-old like Iranian kid off a plane. I got off a plane and the kid comes up to me and he's got his phone and he says, "Can I take a picture with you?" And he had it fired up.
He had it ready.
So he had it fired up, but I didn't see the other side. I just saw he had it in his hand. Yeah, sure, we take a picture. Boom, he's ready, selfie. Bam, done. All right, man, nice to meet you. Cool, we're great you in. Cool. Get ready to walk up. He's like, can you sign it? He had already flipped it to the portion of his phone that would allow me to take my finger and sign.
He's ready to go.
And I said, dude, if I had a bigger company, I'd want to hire you.
Yeah,
like this kid was ready. So the lesson in all that though is, one, read the situation. Don't intrude on someone while they're eating. Try not to intrude on someone if they're having, if the body language says they're on the phone,
No, eating.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry to bother you.
I'm sorry, right?
No, you're not.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this necessarily that these are, absolute rules. I'm just saying if you want to increase your odds of a positive experience, listen to what I'm saying right now. Read the situation. Try not to disturb them while they're eating. If they're on the phone, don't do that either. If they're on a date, okay, pay attention to that too.
Yeah.
Be ready. If you do come in hot, be ready. Don't just assume and have your stuff filming already, because some people will get pissed like that right off the bat if they already see that you're filming. Like, I try not to do that because there's a game around that too. That's a separate conversation.
Well, you also, I mean, you would agree that if you can, you want to say yes to as many people as possible. You want to, we were in Nashville a couple of weeks ago, and this group of people recognized me, and this older lady came up. I was holding my daughter. She's like, "Are you Nick from the Match?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I take a picture?" I'm like, "Sure." And then she just pulls out her picture and just starts taking pictures of me.
No. I'm like,
no, baby, I'll get in the picture, and I'm like, I don't want my daughter in this photo, it's like, Jesus Christ. Anyways, it's I mean, like I said, I couldn't imagine what you have to go through, because like it's, being Steve Urkel from Family Matters is a lot of a bigger deal than just being one of the many bachelors that we had.
No, fame is fame though now. It's changed. I'm telling you, Nick.
But the intensity though.
It's with each person in different areas of the country, even the world. The reactions are always going to be they're going to vary.
A big part of your book, you talk about a lot of the fascinating people you've met throughout the years. I mean, it is.
You be name dropping.
It is. I mean, it's pretty cool.
I met everybody.
You met everybody.
The only person I did not meet was Madonna.
Damn.
Somehow I did not meet Madonna.
Yeah, well, you could probably make that happen.
I got a great story on her though.
Want to share?
No.
Oh my God.
Because my boy would kill me.
Okay.
Madonna was a pimp though.
Damn.
So you have a friend who met Madonna. Okay. Good to know. I don't even know where to start there, but like Jay-Z is the story you talk about Jay-Z is fascinating. Where you asked him to play basketball. Can you share that story? There's so many good stories. I'd love for you to tease some of these and share some of these anecdotal stories.
No, there's certain people I mentioned, and If I mention anybody, by the way, it's really not a name drop like, yo, I'll pick that back up. I mentioned them because there were lessons around my interaction with them that I was absorbing very rapidly. And when I look back on it, those lessons are very vivid. And so, I had been to nightclubs in one way, but the particular night that I went, I actually, you've heard the term bubbling at Dublin's.
No.
It's a lyric in one of his songs. So it was like, I've been to Dublin's with JC.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm like, having lived that moment, it was like he and his crew exposed us to a completely different motivation behind going to the nightclub. Most people were going to a nightclub to get lit, maybe close the deal with somebody they try to hook up with, but there are other motivations why professional people will partake in nightclub activity. And he just,
What are those
they put on a show.
motivations?
Well, mainly promotion.
Okay.
Mainly promotion. You know what I'm saying?
So he was working.
I always, oh yeah, I want to be it doesn't look like work, but there's an effect that, that those rappers wanted to create back when nightclubs operated that way.
And then you asked him to play basketball.
This is R. Kelly, wasn't it?
No, when I asked him to play basketball, he just kind of blew me off a little bit. That's all. He kind of blew me off a little.
But you did play basketball game with R. Kelly.
No, I did play basketball with R. Kelly.
And was he good?
He was athletic. How about that?
Did he pitch a little fit?
He was athletic, but I got a lot more than I bargained for. Playing ball with R. Kelly.
I bet you did.
How so?
He's a difficult customer on a basketball court. It was a very memorable set of games, man.
As someone who's been famous for a very long time, been in the business for a long time, met a lot of famous people. Some of the people you've interacted with, R. Kelly included, Bill Cosby, obviously have a very problematic past.
Yeah.
In general, like, what is your opinion of Hollywood? I mean, right now we're in the midst of the P. Diddy situation.
Yeah.
Have you ever met him?
Mm-hmm.
What was that interaction?
I never got invited to any parties.
Okay.
Clear record.
Good.
I constantly say rejection is God's protection.
Yeah.
So I got left off the white party list. I never really went out of my way to get myself invited to any of those things anyway.
Thank God.
That's just the way it is. In the book, I address it. I address the historical context of these individuals because I don't ever want people to think that I'm discussing these people without respect to people who have been their victims or convictions that have taken place.
Yeah.
So I addressed that specifically, and that was something I worked with our editor. But it was like there are also individuals that a lot of people cross paths with. Puffy threw a lot of parties. It means a lot of people attended these parties regularly, and now everybody's gone quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a way to share what it is that you may have experienced honestly and not just for clickbait, and also independent of anything that may have taken place after you left or in closed doors that you weren't invited in. And so that's what I try to do when I talk about R. Kelly, when I talk about Mr. Cosby. Even that, it's like I'm from my generation, I'm still ingrained to call him Mr. Cosby. Like, you don't understand how much he insisted upon that.
He insisted you calling him Mr. Cosby?
Everyone around him called him Mr. Cosby or Mr. C. He insisted upon these titles. And when you were a child, especially,
Sure.
I'm Generation X. Adults can do no wrong. If an adult tells you to do something, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Values have changed. And that's part of what my book intends to do, is to say, hey, man, look, let's have a nostalgic moment for the values that we miss. But let's also wave goodbye to some things that need to go and never need to come back.
There are a few things in this world that I live, breathe, die, exist for. Few things. One of them is Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. This is my prized possession. I have put my mother onto it. I've put other moms going through postpartum onto it. I was on it before I had a baby. My hair was in the best shape of my life it has ever been in. It finally grew past the point that it has never grown past. And there was so much less hair in the shower. Everyone's root causes of hair thinning are different, so a one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth just doesn't cut it. And Nutrafol has multiple formulas that are tailored to give your hair what it needs to grow throughout different stages, such as postpartum, menopause, as well as as well as different lifestyles, such as plant-based diets. Physician-formulated with drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supplements support healthy hair growth from within by targeting root causes of thinning, including stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism, as they evolve throughout a woman's life. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol's Women Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months. With Nutrafol, building a hair growth routine is simple. You purchase online, no prescription required, free shipping and automated deliveries ensure you'll never miss a day. See results in 3 to 6 months.
Get results you can run your fingers through for a limited time. Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code VIALL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code VIALL. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code VIALL.
Need some help with ideas for holiday shopping? That's right, holiday shopping is right around the corner, my favorite time of the year, and Way is making it easy to give way better gifts this holiday. Their hair and body products are specifically designed to customize a routine that works for you and personalized gift for everyone on your list. Give Way better gifts with their best sellers, which happen to be some of my favorites. Their leave-in conditioner is a must. It smells amazing. It's perfect for every hair type. It's fighting frizz. It's hydrating. It detangles. It's everything. It's perfect. The detox shampoo is really good if you're using a lot of product. If your hair is really dirty and you just really need a good detox, that one is great. It cleanses product buildup, hard water deposits, dirt, oil, and other impurities. The St. Bart's hair and body mist, nothing has ever smelled better in your entire life. I drench myself in it every single day. It's perfect. The hair oil is nutrient packed, absorbs quickly, keeps color from fading, and revives damaged hair easily.
'Tis the season to get away and save. Save 15% off site-wide when you give the gift of Way. Whether the person on your list has fine, medium, or thick hair, or multiple hair concerns, Way's got you. Get on your way to save for the holidays. Go to theway.com for 15% off site-wide. That's THEOUAI.com for 15% off site-wide and enter promo code Viall Files. That's, again, THEOUAI.com for 15% off with code Viall Files.
We've talked about it before. You know it. We love it. You love it. We know it. Life 360 is a family connection and safety app that lets you track your family members' locations in real time. And now you can connect Life 360 Tiles to your account. Tiles are Bluetooth trackers with SOS buttons, allowing you to always keep track of your stuff. The holidays are a time to gather loved ones, but it also means lots of travel and last-minute errands. With the Life 360 app, you can keep your family connected and track locations in real time, so you can feel closer no matter where the holidays take you and your loved ones.
Make everyday family life better. Keep track of where everyone is in real time to streamline family communication and coordination. Peace of mind in the palm of your hands, knowing where everyone in your family is at any given time. We certainly love that. You'll know that everyone in your Life 360 circle has crash detection, roadside assistance, and SOS with emergency dispatch. And get the details on their day-to-day with real-time speed monitoring, 30 days of location history, and low battery alerts. Make everyday family life better. Visit life360.com or download the app today and use code VIALL to get 1 month of the gold package for free. Life360.com, code VIALL. That's life360.com, code VIALL. How do you think the industry has changed, or maybe it hasn't, but hopefully it has?
Oh, it has.
In terms of protecting children and child actors?
I think it's changed in the same way that, sexual harassment in the workplace has changed. There's a lot more talking tos before work even begins. HR is seeing to it that a lot more people are given a safe space to report anything they may have seen or may have heard. Ultimately, it comes down to something a lot simpler, really, when it comes to just kids working in show business. A lot of kids go completely unsupervised, though, by their parents in these work environments. It's where it's like, you just drop your kid off on this movie studio lot, and it's like, oh, I've got these things to do, and I'm out, and I'll be back. Yeah. Exactly. And if you do that, you are pretty much creating some of the problem for yourself. I had a hover mom. My mom was always popping up, making sure that I was aware of her presence. I could never get a free moment without my mom spying on me, trying to find me or locate me on a movie studio lot. But that hovering also sends a message to people who would be predators.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. The other thing, though, is parents have struggled to maintain their careers while their children are in these work environments as well. So my mom had a job when I got Family Matters, and she was sneaking off work to get me to the audition. And then once I started working on the show, and she and my dad are in flux. They're like, well, Michael, I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't want to quit my job, but somebody's got to be down there with Jaleel. And so then it becomes, paying a friend who has a day off to watch me and that type of thing. So, parents have their own journey separate and apart from the kids. And I don't think a lot of those journeys are really shared. What were the parents doing at the time of a lot of these things? If you're just abandoning your kid in a workplace environment that's really exclusively for adults, how much of that is just Hollywood and how much of that is abandoning your duty as a parent?
I suppose with Hollywood, I think you just assume that if your kids are around other adults, there wouldn't be predators.
See, that's different.
Around there,
My mom thought the other way. Maybe that was just her hood background. She grew up in South Central, whatever. So she didn't trust any adults.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she came at it from a different. It was weird. She didn't trust any adults, but at the same time, I had to obey adults no matter what they said. So that dichotomy was there too.
I get what you're saying, but yeah, I guess it's just more like you just never would imagine that if you're dropping your kid off, it's kind of like you drop your kid off at school. I mean, I know that's not
that's
the set's
different.
not school, but
that's different because these are educators. These are people who have a background in working with kids, and even then, like teachers were different. Yeah. Back in the 90s and what? I got a chapter in my book where I talk about a teacher just getting completely out of pocket with me in middle school. So, now teachers have to deal with kids with phones, filming what's going on in classrooms. Things have changed, tremendously.
You open up about your quote unquote first kiss.
That was wild.
Yeah, speaking
that
of
was an episode where you were 13, right?
Yeah.
And a 30-year-old woman stuck her tongue down your throat.
She got caught up in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, how did?
Yeah, how does that happen?
How does that happen, and what was your mom's response to that?
Even my mom, my dad was there, and we rehearsed all week with one level of kissing, and a studio audience has a way of just kind of jacking up the adrenaline for any scene.
Sure.
And so when that scene came around, and Steve got hot at the dice table, and in a speakeasy where he and Eddie had no business.
I remember that now.
And right before my last role, this woman was supposed to just grab me and plant a kiss on me because she's winning all this money, with me and rolling. And once again, I didn't break character. So even when I come out of that kiss, I'm just like, okay, I know I felt something there that I haven't felt all week, but we're not going to ruin this take. And so when they said cut, I remember just going to my dressing room and, I'm a kid. So I started crying. I was in the bathroom. My dad came in. He's like, what's wrong? And I was just like, just ask Dave if we got it clean. And that's just shop talk for, are we moving on to the next scene? Did they check the gate of the cameras? And so then David comes in and he's talking with my dad. And it's like, what happened? It's like, I think she kissed him a little, vigorously. And so Dave and my dad start kind of laughing. They're just there. They're laughing at it. It's
almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. They're patting me on the back and they're like, all right, you okay? You need a moment. And I'm like, yeah. And and I remember them, my dad and Dave, distinctly, saying, wow, we're really going to laugh about this in 10 years. And then when I went back out to the set, even the crew guys, all the camera guys, Pepper and the Griffs and the gaffers, she really gave it to you, young fella. She really gave, and it was just like, it was a different time.
God, that's what I'm saying. Like,
so even when I tell this story, I have to be clear in this, please. Like, I don't want that woman attacked for like, oh, you assaulted him or this, that, and the other. It was a different time. She pushed it. She didn't touch me any place inappropriate. But as far as that kiss was concerned, we did not rehearse it like that, and it went far, and that was my first kiss.
Well, also to your point though, is regardless of how she handled that moment, it was still in the script to have an adult woman kiss a 13-year-old boy.
Oh yeah, to lay it on me too. Like it was supposed to be a fake lay it on me. It's just that night it turned into the real lay it on me.
Did the response of your dad, all these crew members. Did that change how you feel about it?
Exactly.
It did.
So exactly. So you got a smart woman over here. She's over here reading my mind. But no, exactly. It changed how I felt about it because it made me feel like, wait a minute, am I over dramatizing something? Is this just something? And I could tell when he said in 10 years, we're going to be laughing about this. So I guess that's the way I'm supposed to be kissing girls at some point. At some point, right? It was a moment of hypermasculinity that, was just blasé back then. So when I share this story, I always like people to say, hey, look, just try to have respect for changing times, what they were, and what they don't need to be anymore.
That's what the story's more about, just how different things are now.
Oh, yeah.
How more aware we've been and just how detached
when
as a society we were.
When I looked at the film Quiet on Set, because I finally broke down and said, I want to see this documentary. I thought some of the things, honestly, that those kids went through were far more traumatizing than my kids. That's just my personal opinion. Especially with I think one of the boys they had him dress up with like a bigger nose, and they really turned him into a black caricature of himself. And with the licking and the toes and all that stuff.
It was a lot of sexual.
Yeah, it was so much just like overtly sexualizing of situations that I'm like, look, if I made it out of 215 episodes with a 30-year-old woman slipping me some tongue, I'm going to be all right. Maybe that's just the 90s and me coming out, my own Gen X coming out. But it's a story worth sharing, but trust me, I'm watching kids that have gone through far worse. And I think those kids, I think their value was taken away from them. When I looked at that, those kids were kicking ass for Nickelodeon. They were bringing in big viewers, big dollars, and they were part of a machine that really exploited what they meant to the machine. I didn't have to live that.
Yeah. Well, we're very glad. Speaking of Diddy, I'm just in finishing this conversation. It's like I'm glad we've had this awareness. I'm glad we've are realizing that was inappropriate. But it's 2024 now, and someone like Diddy is finally being caught. And we're realizing he's been committing these crimes for a very long time. And you almost have to ask yourself, are there still predators out there not in Hollywood not being held accountable despite us, again, it's like from a corporate standpoint, we know what's inappropriate. We know we have HR, we have these sex coordinators, all these things. Do you, in your gut, do you think there's still a lot more dangerous people getting away with whatever they've been getting away with?
Unfortunately, more people get away with things than get caught. What you have to hope for is that when people like Harvey Weinstein, and Diddy, and I threw that name in there so that it's not turned into a hip hop issue also. And, Diddy still has to stand trial. So I got to be careful with my words. For me, the tape with him and Cassie was enough. So I don't know anything about the trial stuff that's coming. We'll see that. But the tape with the Cassie stuff,
we can have our opinions based on that.
Yeah, that's there you go. That's my opinion is pretty much swirl around that. But you just have to hope that the consequences that are associated with any of that kind of stuff deter people who have committed those offenses from dipping back into that pot and not being repeat offenders. That's all you can hope for, really. But people in general, I don't care men or women. It's a human nature thing. People in power will abuse power. And all you can do in any workplace, in any home, is to create as many checks and balances so that, their people are in power are held accountable.
You're a father.
Yes, I am.
How has that experience been for you?
It's awesome. You're a girl dad too, though, right?
Yeah.
All right. How old?
She's 9 months.
She's 9 months. Wow. You guys look really well rested to have a 9-month-old.
She is a really great baby.
She's a great baby.
Okay, all right. Or maybe your nanny game is just that nice.
We don't have a nanny,
You don't?
just us.
We tag team,
What?
Yeah.
And she's a good baby.
She's a great baby.
We have babysitters.
These people are superhuman. They look really good.
She's a good baby.
To have a 9-month-old.
She is a good baby.
Wow.
Now our next could be crazy.
The next
we don't
is
know.
already in the making.
We know we want another child.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys feel fertile.
Everyone always says, Jaleel, everyone always says the second child, the first is what makes you want to have another because the first is so good. And then the second is batshit.
And then
So,
also
we'll see.
our first dog, Jeff, easy peasy. And then
I
Steve's a
love
fuck.
that your dog is such a human name.
Yeah, with
Love
Jeff and Steve.
Jeff and Steve.
Jeff
Yeah.
and Steve.
Jeff and Steve. Yeah.
Yes, my daughter's 15, man. I'm very much a girl dad.
Well, she's 15.
Yeah.
So how, I mean, what is, I mean,
Teenage years.
yeah, what's that like? How's that adjustment
No,
been?
she just, she's bucking for freedoms that she doesn't completely need. I'm actually more lenient with her than my mom was with me. So I struggle with that a little bit because I think we want to make up for every mistake our parents made. So if you felt like your parents made a mistake, you want to do it differently. But I don't want to be extreme also. But yeah, no, she wants to go to parties. She wants to, these girls are hopping out, dresses up to here and boots up to here. And it's, six of them all piled in an Uber, headed to parties, started at 10 and 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, let's
So
chill.
how do you
How do
balance?
you?
Because like, you're growing up, you always hear like the more strict you are, the more they want to rebel or something like that. So how do you find the balance between giving your daughter, I'd love some advice, because I'm sure River, that's our daughter, she'll be 15, I'll blink and she'll be 15. But, I want her to feel empowered, but I also want her to understand rules. And I want, I don't want to force her to rebel and to do something I don't want her to do. And I feel like every parent struggles with this, but how do you handle it?
So every kid's going to be different. It's very important that you observe your kid. So, and it's more important right now that you just create the bond between you and River that she wouldn't want to disappoint daddy. That matters. Because, and when I say disappoint daddy, I don't mean just kowtow to any of daddy's wishes, but embody your values. So, read to your daughter. I read to my daughter every night, but I was also in a 50-50 co-parenting arrangement. So that changes your mindset about time with your kid. When you have them, that is your time, so in a wonderful situation like you guys have, things can get a little more lackadaisical and you can forget how quickly time is passing. So I'm telling you, at 9 months, man, like get on it. Like even the manipulations start.
Oh yeah.
Early. I remember my daughter broke out crying and she couldn't have been like maybe 16 months or something. She's almost 2. And I heard it. She was like, she put her head down and everything. And I said, that's a fake cry. Because I've never talked to my daughter like she was a kid. I always talk to her like she's an adult kind of. And she looked up with 35-year-old demonic eyes. It was like, it's not a fake cry.
Ooh.
And it was like another adult living inside of her was speaking on her behalf and had spoken out of turn. And it was like, I called her on her shit. And in that moment, I'll never forget. Okay, wait a minute. There is something inside of you that is very aware that you can't speak and articulate quite yet, but there's a soul inside of you that wants to do things and you're acting out. And from that moment, I became aware of her manipulating me. And so I would always nip things in the bud. I remember one time she was like, she had a mirror up and she was like, Daddy, I'm so pretty. She couldn't have been 3. And I'm in a 50-50 arrangement too. So what happens with that, sometimes your child is bringing things from another household into your household. And you're like, whoa, you weren't like that last week.
Yeah.
And I shut it down right there in that moment. And I was like, Samaya, pretty people let other people tell them that they're pretty. Said ugly people tell other people how pretty they are. And I straightened her out and she looked at me and she absorbed that quickly. And she never made that mistake. And she never went down that road of vanity. And anytime you see something as a father, you got to nip it in the bud right on the spot because they're testing you as soon as 14, 15, 16 months.
I mean, she's already crying if we take something away from her that she wanted to play with.
Like they are.
And she'll scream and you'll be like, are you okay? And then you realize she's
testing you.
Yeah.
There's 2 books I would recommend. There's one called the Baby Manual and the other one's called the Toddler Manual. And they're the best books, I think, for dads to get because they're actually written like car manuals. So they describe the baby as a machine with with all of these different components and how to operate the machine.
That's funny.
Well, thank you.
I don't know what your daughter, is into. If if acting was her passion,
Nah.
you wouldn't? No?
She doesn't want to be in front of the camera.
No.
I asked my daughter point blank because it was just getting to that point. And I was like, Smile, do you want to act? Do you want to? Nope. And it was a very flat, definitive no.
Okay.
And it was like, all right. And I kind of see the way her phone is organized, and she's got a whiteboard in her room. And I'm kind of getting some ideas. I think she's an operations girl. I really do. Because there's a certain brain for operations.
Yeah.
There really is for tour managers and coordinating and improving systems that are currently in place. So that's why I meant when I told you, I said, observe your child. It's very important that you observe your daughter and discover all the gifts that she has in a dad way, where it's like, oh, you do that well. You know, my daughter could crack the code of any game. Any game we would play, she would find a way to short circuit the game. She just would.
Wow.
She just would. I remember I had this game. Wow, I forget the name of the game. It's so dope. It's got these happy faces on chips. You should get it. It's a fun game, and it's got frown faces on chips. And it's a game about greed. I think the game is called Greed. And you put your hand in the pouch, and you keep pulling until you pull a frown face. And if you pull a frown face, then the turn goes to the next person. If you did it too many times, all your chips had to go back in.
Yeah. So you had to kind of like figure out.
Exactly.
There was like
exactly. And so she would get so you had to know when to stop.
Yeah.
So if you stopped on your own without reaching in, that was the rule of the game. If you stopped on your own, you got to keep the chips that you pulled with the happy faces. But if you just kept going, and of course she's a child, she just thinks she can pull out 9 straight. They all go back in. She keeps getting frustrated, and she got really, really frustrated. And just like, okay, calm down. It's just a game, baby. I say, honey, you just have to feel it. And I was saying it on some like Michael Jackson stuff, like I just have to feel it. You just feel it in your heart when to stop, right?
Wait, can you do a pretty good Michael Jackson voice? You just slipped in there.
And she was like, "Oh, I'm an actor, so I can jump into that stuff." It was like, but that she looked at me and she was like, "You're right, Daddy. I just have to feel it." And she stuck her hand in the pouch, and she pulled out one happy face, and she pulled out another happy face, and she pulled out 9 straight. And I'm like, what did you do? Right? And she's playing a game with her other friends, and I realized what she's doing. She's taking her thumb and rubbing them across the chips, and she's determining whether or not the frown was up or whether the frown was down.
It's like, thank you, Daddy. You taught me how to cheat.
No, that's not cheating. That's
cracked the damn game.
That's playing smart. Were you proud?
But in the weird way, I was like, oh, you're like a future safecracker. I gotta watch you.
I would have been very proud. You got to channel that, you know. But
yeah, Daddy, I just have to feel it.
That's great. Back to your career. What would you say is, obviously minus the celebrity and maybe money behind it, what is something from your career that you're most grateful for, and what is your biggest regret when it comes to your career?
Ooh. I think my biggest regret actually didn't come until my adult years. My adult years, I ran into a patch where I stopped believing in myself. The business tries to put you, and it works hard to put you in a easily digestible box so much so that you can start to doubt what your natural abilities are. I love telling, since you brought up Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson, for the legend that he is, he had the hardest time getting Off the Wall, the album, made. And there's a whole documentary about it. It's fantastic. Just about his journey from being one of the Jackson 5 to Off the Wall. And every executive that was in charge, that was standing in as an obstacle in the way of him recording Off the Wall, was like, I mean, the black kid who sings Ben? You don't even know the song Ben.
I don't.
You might know the song
I don't
Ben.
know.
Okay, all right. So when I leave, play the song Ben by Michael Jackson. And it's this really sappy, slow, wholesome song. The executives just had the hardest time with Quincy Jones trying to convince them that the black kid who sang Ben would be the next big pop star. I try to share with people out there, says, listen, you got to follow your own instincts, but you got to be able to take criticism too. So you got to be self-reflecting in this business. But don't ever get to the point in this business where you doubt what your gifts are if you have tangible proof that your gifts have worked. Michael Jackson had performed in front of thousands of people by this time. He was a veteran of the stage. So for any executive who had never been on a stage, never worked a stage, never held an audience captive for 2 hours for a concert or whatnot, to say that was so dismissive. I understand what that is. So I ran into a patch where I stopped believing in myself. And it really wasn't until my daughter was born again that I had no choice but to say, no, your gifts got you this far and you're going to keep going and more magic is going to happen. And learn to take that with a grain of salt where, executives like that who just lack visionary capability, it's just going to be along your path. So that's my biggest regret, is just not believing in myself for probably about a strong patch in my late 20s, because it led me towards interacting with people that were not part of my journey, not part of my purpose, everything. You start to just, you really just start to fall off your path when you stop believing in what you're supposed to be doing. In the context of what this conversation has been, I'm grateful for the adults I got to grow up around. They weren't perfect. I tangled with some executives that they were sharks. They might have gotten the best of me, but I was overall more protected than I was hurt. You got to get lucky in the people you get a chance to cross paths with in this life, in this business. I crossed paths with some pretty cool adults that gave me a really, really interesting and fun and very educational childhood.
At what point, if ever, did you start to feel run down?
Around 2001 for me, 2001, 2003, somewhere in there. I definitely wanted to quit. So happy I didn't. I just feel like every time I've ever wanted to quit in my life, God sent me a reason, an obvious reason to keep going. I remember I was thinking about quitting the business right before I booked Dreamgirls.
Wow.
And I was at Mekhi Phifer's house, who's a longtime friend of mine. And Mekhi Phifer threw one of the greatest celebrity parties I've ever attended in my life. I mean, Mark Wahlberg was there. Paris Hilton was trying to get in. Like, Mekhi Phifer, when he was on ER, he was doing some big things.
Damn.
And I remember I came by his house, and I mean, the party's just cracking.
Like Paris Hilton trying to get in.
Oh, no,
It's the most iconic line.
Yeah. She got in, but I'm saying, but it was still a whole.
She had to try. She had to try.
We got Paris at the door, and it was like, but it was at a time too where if Paris showed up to your door, it made the party. And I remember another actor, Keith Robinson, came up to me at the party, and he was like, "Man, congratulations, man! I saw your headshot in the wardrobe room." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's just like, "Dreamgirls, man." He's like, "I'm in it too. Like, I'll see you at work." And I just played it cool, like, "Oh yeah, no, I hadn't talked to my agent in a while." And as soon as he walked away, I remember just running out of the party and calling my my manager at the time. And I didn't care what time it was or whatever. I woke him up and was like, "Dude, Keith Robinson told me I got it." And he was like, "Oh, Jaleel, I didn't want to tell you the deal hasn't closed yet." That's me impersonating my manager.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so excited. But I was definitely in a moment of contemplation there, being at the party. It's exciting to be around a lot of celebrities, but I don't see it that way. I see it as a professional endeavor. So you have the most fun when you're in a room full of actors, when you're acting, because that's what we do, right? And, whoever's won the most awards, whoever's movie is most recent, whoever's TV show is popping right there, they're probably having the most fun in the room, typically, if they care to share their excitement. And whoever's looking for their next job or waiting for their next, response to their last audition, you can kind of get in your feels. So that was a moment where I know I was definitely kind of in my feels. And God said, "Hold on one second. Let me send Keith Robinson over to you.
That's crazy.
Let you know you got a job next week, brother."
I know people love a great impression, and I'm getting the sense that you do. I know you're an actor, but not every good actor does a great impression. Do you have any good impressions that you're like?
You know what? I do them in the acting context, but out of respect for Jay Farrow and Jamie Foxx and the guys who do them so well.
I mean,
hey, look, that's the standard. That's the standard. They just kind of come out naturally if I have to, because I feel like I can play anybody.
But do you have one that you feel most confident about?
I did Muhammad Ali for Jeff Ross and Historical Rose.
Okay.
Yeah. I can talk like Muhammad,
That's very good. Yeah.
I can talk to him if I have to give you a sting like a bee, float like a butterfly.
I love a good impression.
That's good. Nick does love a good impression.
I do. I think most people do. I don't know what it is about impressions that people are so fascinated by. You know, to hear the voice of someone else through someone else is I don't know why.
I'll tell you, Nick, you don't want to tangle with me, Nick.
That's pretty good.
That is good. That's really good.
That's very good. Do you do any other one?
Oh gosh, what else would I do? I can talk like the governor. I can talk like the governor.
Very good.
The Terminator.
Hell yeah.
The Terminator.
I can do a bad Arnold. Do it.
Do we? I think our texting office hours is here.
Time for texting office hours? All right. You down to help someone out with a problem?
Absolutely.
All right, let's bring them up.
Do it.
How's it going?
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm 26 years old.
How can we help, Lauren?
I need help asserting my boundaries with my ex.
Okay. Tell me more about your ex.
So we started dating July last year, and things were going pretty well initially. And then until March, I noticed that he started pulling back, and he was telling me, well, I confronted him asking what was wrong, and he was telling me that he was feeling pretty overwhelmed because he's juggling 2 kids, a full-time job, and starting a master's program. And we ultimately decided to break things off. About a week later, he reached out, and then we started hanging out again. And then we were hanging out pretty consistently for the next 2 months. And then in May, it was my birthday and graduation, and I had a party to celebrate both. And I was introducing him as my boyfriend to my friends and family. The following day, he told me that not that he felt uncomfortable, but he just didn't like the label of boyfriend. And
You didn't
it
want the
really threw me off.
responsibility of
Yeah.
boyfriend. Yeah.
So I told him that I didn't want like friends with benefits. Like I only want commitment, and I couldn't be in this if he didn't want that. So we cut it off again. And then I found out he started seeing another girl, and I was completely heartbroken. Then 2 weeks later, he reached out and asked if I wanted to get dinner, and I agreed. And I just assumed, I should have asked, but I just assumed he wasn't seeing this girl anymore. When we hung out, had dinner, we spent the entire weekend together. Then the following week, I found out he was still seeing this girl, and I ended up messaging her. We talked for a bit, and she told me that he invited her over that night, then asked if I would be willing to go with her to confront him together. And so we did.
Damn.
It's spicy.
Damn. Go, girl.
He was pretty surprised, but he was basically saying that he felt like he didn't do anything wrong because he wasn't in a relationship with either of us, which is true, I guess, but we both felt pretty betrayed. We ended up leaving, and that night he calls me and asked if I could meet up with him the following day so we could get on the same page, and I agreed. And so he told me that he didn't want to lose me and he wanted me in his life. So I told him that the only way I'd be willing to stay in his life is if we were in a relationship or working towards one. And he agreed, but asked if we could take things slow. And so for the next month, we were doing pretty okay, but during that time, he had family over. He was still doing school. He has his kids every other weekend. And I guess he felt overwhelmed again. I noticed he was pulling back again. And so we agreed to like meet up and talk about what was going on. And he told me that he was feeling overwhelmed and he felt like he wasn't putting enough time in this relationship that he felt I deserved. And we cut it off again. And then I have a meal prep business, and I was still selling him meals, but I wasn't seeing him. I would just drop him off at his work with the front desk lady.
For free?
Oh, no, I
He was paying?
Oh, she said he was selling.
Okay.
I caught
I
that.
was
She
just
said
making sure.
She said I was selling a meal. I caught that.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, but one day I forgot to include something in one of his plates, so I ended up texting him, and if he wanted to come by to pick it up, it was like a sauce or something. Anyways, he came to pick it up, and then that started our communication again. And the following day, he texted me asking if I wanted to go over and bake some cupcakes. And I know I shouldn't have said yes, but I did. And I went over, and this was a few weeks ago, and we've been hanging out again pretty consistently. I'll go over while he's doing homework, and we'll just like watch movies or.
Lauren, stop. Stop
and
hanging
now-
out with him. You have to stop.
So currently, where are we with this guy?
We are not in a relationship. I would
You're
say
still
it's a
talking.
situationship,
Yeah.
but yes, we are still talking. But it's pretty overwhelming because like the same thing could happen. I'm always anxious about like, is he seeing someone else? I really don't think he's seeing anyone else, but it could happen again because he'll be like, oh, well, we're not together.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely could if he wanted to.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah.
10 being absolute fire, when you hook up, is it a 10?
It's an 8.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
that's still pretty high.
No, that's high.
That's high.
That's high.
I feel like he is getting absolutely everything he wants, and you're getting nothing that you want. There's no sense of
agree.
compromise with this at all.
So you called in when you said, I need help setting better boundaries with my ex, right? And a few
Yes.
minutes ago, you said something. You said after the confrontation when he came back, you said the only way I'm willing to do this when he says, like, I want to keep you in my life. And you said we have to be in a relationship or at least be working towards something. And so
Yes.
boundaries aren't complicated. They're really simple, right? And so the real boundary was, I need to be in a relationship if we want to keep this going. But the second part, that wasn't a boundary. Or what is working towards something? That's so vague. That's why he said yes, right? You gave him the out, right? And you kind of knew that. Your subconscious knew that, right? Because your real boundary was, we've been hooking up. You met my family. I don't want to lose you. Who says that to someone that they don't want to be boyfriend and girlfriends with? That's probably what you're thinking, right? But you were afraid he would say no to the relationship part. So you gave him the out. You gave him the or, and he's like, yeah, I can work towards something forever. Fuck. Shit, that's no, let's make cupcakes. He's working towards a relationship. Well, let's go on a trip. I'm working towards a relationship. Let's hook up. I'm working towards a relationship.
I don't want to see you for a week. I'm
I
working towards a relationship. I gotta think about
it. I'm working towards a relationship, and so when you think about boundaries and you want to set something, ask yourself, is this the real boundary or am I giving them an out? Because it shouldn't be that complicated. Boundaries aren't like a 2-part, 3-part process. It's a simple statement. I want this. I'm comfortable with that. I don't want that. I want a relationship with you. If you want to keep hooking up with me, you need to commit. There's no or and, there's no a 3-part thing. So that's the biggest thing that you have to take away, I hope, with this call, is that you have to figure out what your real boundaries are and you have to stick to them.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked her about her, what the connection was. What is it about him that you are drawn to? Because there's some aspect of him that is irresistible to you, and you got to be honest about what that is.
So I feel like, because I'm still living in my hometown, I'm living with my parents still, and everyone around me, all my best friends, left recently, like within the last year. And I feel like deep down, I feel like it's probably because he's the only one still here. And I guess maybe it's company, or, I mean, when I'm with him, I really do enjoy our time and our conversations. I really like that he motivates me a lot.
He's your safe space right now.
Yeah.
He feels familiar to you.
Yeah, he does just enough to be needed.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, though, just to let you know, like, single parents don't date. Like single parents, they prospect for a partner, or they are trying to get some fun or some joy to tap back into their youth because they are genuinely overwhelmed. And I'm curious, is he a good dad?
He is. I've never met his kids. I've never seen him with his kids, but I do see how much he does prioritize for them. And he'll show me, like, oh, I did this for my kids, or like he'll talk about how he spent his weekend with his kids. And so I do think he's a really good dad.
Yeah. So you're confirming my suspicions. So, and the fact that you haven't even met his kids, he's sensitive to another woman being introduced to his kids.
One thing I forgot to mention, when he was seeing that other girl for that month, she told me that she went over to his house to work out, and his son came out and she met him casually. But with me, like, I've never been able to go near his house when his kids are there. So
was there ever a conversation when you were dating, seriously, of like stepmother role?
Oh yeah, like what were his boundaries or expectations for his kids with you?
He told me that he wouldn't feel comfortable introducing me to his kids until we had been in a relationship for a year.
Okay.
It's a weird
I guess a year he feels like that's,
Well, there's like Jaleel is a single parent, yeah?
No, not anymore.
Married now.
You're married. Oh, my bad.
But let's clarify.
Okay, he is married. Okay, he is married.
No, but I was. So that's why I understand. There was a definitive moment for me where I realized, I was like, holy smokes, like, I don't really want to interact with a woman that I'm not comfortable introducing to my daughter. And I would go through great lengths to keep those worlds separate and apart. And, it just sounds to me like taking on the responsibility of building something new with her on top of 2 kids that he does not intend to abandon, which is commendable, is just too much for him, too much for his mind to take in. You know, I don't know somebody's finances or anything like that, so that's why I'd be respectful of that. But it just sounds like that, and the slippage. I don't like the slippage that the other girl met the kid. I don't like that. Like that's like, that's just dude.
That's something weird there.
To
Yeah.
me, he does not respect your boundaries, your wishes, what you want. He is, to me, sounds selfish.
Selfish.
And I think you are wasting your time. I mean, I know he feels familiar. I know you feel alone right now with all of your friends gone. And this is someone that you can have fun with and that you can make cupcakes with and that you can have fun sex with and you can go and do this and that. And that's fun. And that's nice to have that person. But it's not fun to have that person when it's messing with your mental health and you're constantly questioning yourself and you're lying to yourself about what this relationship is. I don't think he's ever gonna.
No, he's not.
No.
Not unless you change
No, he's
something.
not.
You would have to drastically change your behavior around him because he's not. I mean, yeah, this is going to be some tough love. So I say this with love, but put it this way: you don't take your relationship with him seriously, so he doesn't either, right? Because I mean, you showed up with another woman at his front door and confronted him. And then 2 days or 1 day later, I don't know how many days later,
it was the same
day, you were forgiving him. And at that moment, it's just hard to take you seriously if he's going to be able. I mean, at that point, he knew he could pretty much get away with anything with you.
Yeah.
I have a greater issue, though, that I don't want her to repeat in her next relationship. What did you get out of contacting the woman, getting to know her, and confronting him? Were you satisfied with the feeling that you got going that route?
Honestly, I just felt like I didn't want him to tell me something and tell her something different. So I guess I just wanted clarity on the entire situation.
That tells me that inside you don't trust this person.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, whenever you got to get all forensic like that, and you're more interested in getting to know the girl and going down that rabbit hole, when you find what you find, now you got to act on it. So you found what you found. He looked you both in the eyes and was like, oh, I can still do this with either one of them. And I'm just saying, I think it's more important that you figure out for yourself. And I'd love to hear it. What do you want? How do you envision your immediate future for yourself? And how would he fit into that?
I mean, I guess the same thing that guy would only want to stay in his life is we were in a relationship, but
do you want kids? Do you want family? See,
I do.
You see what I'm saying? It's just like, it's really easy to just float that out. Hey, a relationship, we can hang out. But no. I mean, be specific with yourself. I'm looking for a husband. I want to have a child soon. I want to build a family. I want to work. I want to, if my husband needs help, I want to build. It sounds like you're an entrepreneur, like you have a great business. You need to be partnering up with somebody that can help you further that business and get you closer to building a family of your own. But I don't hear you saying that. I hear you saying you're cool to kick it.
Yeah. No, yes, I do. I am looking for a marriage and kids in the future.
So I know you listen to this show, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about situationships at great length. So it's like, my point is, I think you know better, right? But my question to you is, as someone who deep down knows better, and you even said, I know I shouldn't have gone over, but I'm curious, like, why, even though that you know better, and it's one thing to make the mistake, but you're making this mistake at this point daily. I mean, at this point, every time you get on the phone with them, talk to them, hang out with them, have sex with them, there's a part of you knowing that you shouldn't do this. But why are you, other than feeling a little lonely, and I know your friends have moved, but, nevertheless, you're still kind of emotionally torturing yourself. Why are you choosing to do this as someone who knows deep down everything that we're saying to you?
Honestly, I do not know, because the entire day where we're not talking, I tell myself, no, I cannot keep doing this. I deserve better. And then as soon as he reaches out, I'm like, want to hang out? I'm like, yes, right away, like without even thinking, and I go.
It hits a weak spot. I was there with Nick. I mean, 10 months off and on, and I constantly was like, I want to date you. And he said no. And I kept hanging out with him. I kept having sex with him. I kept building my feelings for him while I knew he had no interest in being serious with me. So eventually it did come to that point where I had to talk to myself and say, if I continue with this relationship, I'm only hurting myself. I have to get out of it. And so I went to Nick and I said, I'm done. If you're not going to commit to me, I'm not doing this anymore. And I meant it. And as soon as I went away, he came calling. Now, I'm not saying that's like what this guy's going to do, because clearly, you know, he has the kids and a lot of other things going on. But I think you really have to stick to what you want and not fall as soon as he texts you.
I would say you need to block him.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you don't have the strength to say no, then it's just, I've had to do that, where it's just like, well, if you just block, then you don't know when the other person has contacted you. And then you become the other person that's the weak person if you reach out to them and you know they've been blocked for the last 2 months. So that means realistically, they might have reached out to you and you look them off. So why would you do that to somebody? You see what I'm saying? It's like somehow blocking on the phone like actually gives you the strength to say, hey, I've gone a month. I've gone 2 months. I've gone 3 months. All right, I'm moving on. That's just what I would say. It feels very familiar and safe, and it's helping you deal with some aspect of loneliness that you like.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to go to the grocery store and not buy the Oreos than to buy the Oreos and then try not to eat the Oreos when they're out.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
That's not happening.
Every time Natalie buys the Oreos, I'm like, fuck, man. I'm like,
10
you
o'clock
know, I'm
coming
going to eat all of
around.
these Oreos. I need will. So, but to Jaleel's point, it's going to be difficult for you to block them, but it takes one moment of strength just to block them.
Yeah.
And then you have to delete his number.
Yeah.
You know, you got to block him on everything. But when that Oreo shows up, when I have that craving, I smoke a little weed.
Oh man, we'll take out a whole sleeve.
Do we have milk too? Like, oh shit, that's you. That's him. That's him reaching out. You're like, yes. And at this point, he kind of knows when to reach out. He can sense it. And yeah, he's reaching out when you could use a little company. You can use a little affection. You can use a little like love, and it's just like, it's so hard for you. So you got to make it easy on yourself to not eat the Oreos, so to speak, So you got to...
Souls attach. I don't think people really respect that enough. Like souls attach. Like when you form with somebody, there's an actual spiritual connection that happens between the two of you. And I think whether you want to say you're in a relationship, situationship, boyfriend and girlfriend, do the whole roller coaster thing, your souls are attached. And until you block and you go months and months at a time where you live differently, you're not going to actively detach.
Yeah. So I know you're saying just to block him, and I will, but I don't know. I feel like for me personally, I would, and I know you would be against this, to have at least one conversation ending things. I just wouldn't know what to say.
Are you only wanting to reach out to end things to see if he will change his mind?
Mm-hmm.
Lauren?
I mean, if you want to give him one, listen, if you want to give him one more, like, I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah. Like, this is enough. You don't need to see him in person. You don't need to have a conversation. You don't have to think of a magic thing to say.
I think we did it over text.
You can send him a text and being like, I'm just letting you know we've worked long enough towards a relationship. If you're not actually serious about committing to me and being my partner and being my boyfriend today, then I'm done with this.
I got a simpler question for you to text.
Ooh.
I have a simpler question because there's something that nobody here wants to really continue to address. Do you see me at any point soon as the stepmother to your kids?
Oh.
Damn.
That is a good question.
You ask him that, and if you don't get a fire answer quick, step. Because those kids are in front of you. I'm telling you straight up. As far as line order, those kids are in front of you. So if you can't be a part of what those kids are, and you don't want to be a part of them, maybe you want to be a part of what those kids are. I'm not ruling that out. But you got to ask him point blank, do you see me anytime soon being stepmother to your kids? If you get a big novel back, a whole bunch of stuff to unpack, this, that, and the other, it is what it is, You want to go to the movies, you want to have some fun because you're just feeling that kind of way? All right, but don't expect anything from that guy and understand that guy is blocking other guys who might have an eye on you that you're not recognizing because you're blinded by what you have with him.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree because, I will get asked out, but then I'm like, I feel like I don't want
Oh, I already knew she a lovely girl. They shooting they shot. Your DMs is packed, ain't they? They packed.
And
to.
you're
But
saying
I
you're
feel guilty.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But he's not doing the same.
Oh, no.
He doesn't give you the same respect.
You know what really fucked me up? When Natalie was like, I'm out, and she was like, and I was like, text her, and I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm going on a date. And then she didn't answer the call the rest of the night.
Yeah, now you too
That's the biggest
available.
mistake ladies will make, is thinking that men will get upset, especially in situationships. Like if you're not, you know, they will not like you if you tell them that you're dating other men. That is honestly the opposite. They will lose their mind. Like what you should be doing is going on all these dates, and then when he asks what you're up to, you tell him, I'm going on a date.
The truth.
You tell him the truth.
Because at the end of the day, and if they want to get upset, you can be like, cool, you can get upset, but you don't want to date me. And I'm seeing other people who might want to. So like, if you have a problem with this, then like, we can figure that out and maybe we can date, but we're not going to just keep playing this game and I'm only going to see you, but you're not going to date me.
Yeah.
I literally, like, in my book, I don't know if you read it.
No, I have.
You have? Okay,
Yeah.
my God. Then open
No,
chapter
like 3
2.
times.
Well, then fuck, what the fuck? Not closely
I
enough.
know.
Open chapter 2. Jaleel has the best advice. I mean, honestly, this guy doesn't sound very promising. He doesn't take you very seriously. And I think blocking him is probably the best solution. But if you have the strength and you go back, you know, go on a date, start dating other men. You are a single woman. And I want you to remember that, because you're not in a relationship. So therefore you are single and you have the same freedoms he has. So plan a date. And eventually this, you know, do it soon, because I don't want you emotionally invested in this guy for much longer. And literally there's a step-by-step of what you should do when he reaches out to you and he asks, what are you doing tonight? And you should say, I'm going on a date. And then he's going to get all like flustered. He's going to pretend he doesn't care. He's going to be like, oh, that's cool. Like, tell me about it. Like, what's up? You know? And then you just go away. You go on that date. Anyways, it's in the book. You should read it. It's laid out what you should do. And honestly, if that doesn't work, nothing will. If he doesn't lose his shit and, well, what the fuck am I doing? Like, if he doesn't wake up and realize he could lose something special, then he's never going to come around. He just won't. And then you should definitely at that point move on and block him.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I know all this. I listen to you every week and I've read your book and I know these things, but then that moment comes, I'm like, okay, yeah, I like lose everything.
And this is going to be tough love, and it's meant to sting a little bit, but like he doesn't take you seriously.
Yeah.
Do you want him to?
I do.
But then I mean, but you're not taking yourself seriously. I mean, you're an adult, like Jaleel said, a beautiful woman. You guys reaching out to you. You got your own business, but like every step of the way, you know what you should do, and you do the opposite. So why should he treat you any different than you're treating yourself?
Yeah, I see that.
The most precious thing you have in your life is your time. And until you learn certain lessons, God just kind of makes you keep repeating them. So that's why you're literally on a hamster wheel. I just would prefer you look at it that way as opposed to just the loving feelings that you clearly have for him, though. But respect the fact that you're on a hamster wheel. And I would just think that a woman who has her own meal prep business, you seem like a lovely gal, you would want to get off the hamster wheel and start the progress of Lauren again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's, he's intentionally, you do understand it, holding up that process because it's convenient for him with work and the 2 kids in the school and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh man, but I got this thing on the side that makes me feel good. And it's like, but that's not fair to your growth. But you gotta want that. And that's not his fault. You gotta want that.
Yeah. No, yeah. And I can see it. And I always look back to this quote you said that you're like, this is childish and I'm tired of being childish with you. And it's true. Like this back and forth is childish.
Challenge yourself the next time. You don't reach out. The next time he does, you challenge yourself to either respond with whichever resonated with you best, whether it's the date thing, whether it's these are my boundaries and I'm sticking to them. I'm out if you're not in, or we block them immediately. You can do it.
More than anything, please just start dating.
Yeah.
You know, say yes, just give it a shot and have low expectations. You're going to meet a plenty of frogs, you know, like you don't want to, you know, don't compare him to him, like, but just get out there and act like the single woman that you are. And then realize that your excuse that you gave us a few minutes ago as to why you always say yes, because you're a little lonely, all your friends moved. You're not as lonely as you're acting because clearly you are getting attention from people. You still have friends. It might be an adjustment. You're just very comfortable with this situation that you have, and it's been good enough just to keep it around. But it's clearly making you very sad. It's bothering you. It makes you a lot more sad than it makes you happy. It's that he's that Sour Patch Kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels good. It like you put it in your mouth, but you always feel shitty after you binge in a bunch of sugar. Like you always feel shittier after you hang out with this guy and he rejects you.
You're at such an amazing age. I just want to let you know that. Like I'm almost double your age. So you're at such when I think about, oh my gosh, the age that you are, there's like 2 and 3 and 4 more journeys in front of you. So all I'm trying to do is nudge you, all of us, to get on with that journey. Because you just look so lovely. Seriously, just go date somebody. Go date somebody.
No, yeah, I'm excited. I've only started this business a few months, and I'm excited to meet more people and go on dates.
Well, that's good.
Do it.
And because you started this business a few months ago, and I say this to a lot of people in your position, your energy and time is not infinite, and you are treating it like it is.
Yep.
And so all this energy, even like, listen, we're grateful you're calling in. It was great to meet you. But right now, instead of talking to us, you could be focusing on your business. You could be focusing on far more other productive things, and you're not getting that time back. And you are wasting a lot of energy and time on this guy who doesn't deserve it, isn't asking for it, and it's cost. There's a cost to it. You know, you'll be fine. You'll get over this, but you will. I promise you. Look back on this guy and this relationship, and get a little upset with yourself about how much energy and time you gave him. You've hung out with him enough. He knows you well enough. If he really wants to be with you, you walking away and starting to date other people will do the trick. And if that doesn't do the trick, nothing was going to.
He gonna test that, by the way, anyway. You know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
So, like, you start dating other people, like, he's gonna test that. Just let you know.
I definitely need to block him because I know.
There we go.
That's what I'm saying.
There we
but
go.
to be clear, if he does, and like, you know, again, Natalie and I are very open about this story and how we hung out for 9-10 months before we became boyfriend and girlfriend, but she played it right. And not like, and then I wasn't testing her, but like, I freaked out. And when I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, and I had a lot of my reasons why I didn't want to. I was insecure about our age gap and yada, yada, yada. But, you know, when I did, I was like, all right, let's do this, you know? So he's got to storm the castle. He can't be like, no, let's try. What does try mean? You know, it's not like, let's take it slow. He needs to want to be your boyfriend. He needs to be sorry for almost losing you. He needs to beg for you to be his boyfriend. And if he's not willing to do that, then he's just not taking it seriously. Because he is just like Jaleel said, he's not going to let you go easily. He very much enjoys what he has with you, but it's all at his convenience and on his time. He gets a lot from it, and he is not sad when he's not with you. He's very much in control of this relationship.
Can I ask how old he is?
Good question.
He's 31.
Okay, yeah. So 2 kids, 31. I'm saying this respectfully, very attractive young lady. You're younger than him. Honey, he's out kicking his coverage.
Go find someone with no kids.
Yeah. He is.
No kids,
Yes.
no past marriage.
Yeah.
Start fresh with somebody.
Yeah, like if you were to get involved, a woman your age with a guy with kids, he should be in a position to want to wife you up or take things up to the next level, because it's nothing for him to do that if he sees something special in you. My man is getting a discount for out kicking his coverage right now. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. He wants companionship with no
responsibility, no expectations.
And it sucks because it sounds like he's getting a blessing in you and he's looking it off.
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard you say you're not interested in being a mom, but listen to Natalie. Try to stay away from the ones that do have kids unless they come at you super correct right from the gate.
Yeah.
I think you know what you want to do. Give us a update.
Yeah, send us all an email, man. We want to come check back.
Go read chapter
will.
2 and then go read chapter 10.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.
All right.
All right. Nice to meet you.
You can do this. You're gonna get through this. But just
I'll be strong.
I want you to get mad about how much energy you're wasting about this guy. It's gotta piss you off at some point. I'm assuming that,
Oh, this was
like
fired up.
eventually you have to have it's gotta drive you crazy.
I'm almost reaching that point.
All right. Well, good luck. Let us know what happens. We definitely want an update.
I will. Thank
All
you
right.
guys so much.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Likewise.
She was sweet.
Yeah.
She was very sweet.
That was a great point about men with kids don't date. Yeah. Well, it makes a lot. You don't have the time to fuck around. If you're fucking around, you're definitely not taking it seriously.
Yeah, it's just when you have a child, man, things get real fast. They really do, and nothing will make you feel like you're losing your youth faster than having the responsibilities of a child and any separation that's associated with that. So you want to jump out there, but you also have to be able to recognize when you have a person that's down to be a partner. So that's why I ended up getting married. It's just like I started recognizing, looking at things with my heart instead of my eyes. And I was like, yo, this woman she's down to be a partner.
You enjoy being a husband?
I love it, man. I gotta be honest with you. I love it. It's getting better. I mean, you go through weird stuff. She says I snore too much.
I believe that.
So the snoring thing is like, so I had no idea. Because I had no idea how many men deal with this issue with women and snoring. Like, this is an epidemic.
Have you kind of looked at
the snoring? Yeah, no, I'm seeing doctors about it and everything. But it's weird because it's like, I'm not a bad snorer either. I'm not. And I do know that. So I'm like, I do have a small degree of sleep apnea. I'm on the on the mild end. And she has her senses though are insane. Like, I can walk into the room at night and she's like, did you just have chocolate and peanut butter? She can smell that shit from the bed on my breath.
Hell yeah.
Right? So I'm dealing with a woman with these weird acute senses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I could just know. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And she hears that. And I'm like, how did you ever live in New York? How did you go to sleep in New York? And meanwhile, why did you ever bring this crap up in the first 2 years when we dated? Anyway, right? And that's the trick y'all play on us.
Right? It's fine. It's fine. You get married and shut the fuck up.
But I don't know. It's my lady comes from a really good family. And so I really connect with her father.
I love her name.
And her mother, Nicolette.
Love it. Beautiful.
Thank you. She just comes from a really good family, and I really connect with her mother and her father. So when I look at her mother and her father, I kind of see a lot of aspects of our own relationship, and I've never experienced that before.
Jaleel, it's been a pleasure, man. I wish we could keep talking, but I know
Yeah,
you gotta go.
at some point, they're just the parking meter is going to run out.
It's really been fascinating. I really enjoyed it. I really appreciated the opportunity. The book is called Growing Up Urkel. When does it come out?
November 19th, but pre-orders matter. Get them now.
Pre-orders now. Yeah. You can pre-order wherever you get your books. Is there an audio version for your dyslexic people out there?
And listen, I actually recorded my own book. I did
Isn't that a nightmare?
I did the audio. I enjoyed it.
Oh, wow.
That's the actor in me. So I enjoyed it. And don't forget, I'm the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. So I've been in booths for many hours.
You're the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, I did. I was the original voice for Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Underground, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
I did not know that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I've
incredible.
done over 100 episodes of Sonic.
Duh.
Way past cool.
So good.
That's fucking incredible.
So good.
Well, get the book now. Pre-order it now. It's a very fascinating book. So many incredible stories that will blow your mind. Check it out. Jaleel, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to send in those questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.